Hello, my name is Professor Silvester Henderson. I am a full professor, getting ready to be full emeritus retired professor on the 9th of this month. And I have a company called Professor for Life Incorporated. And primarily what I do, I go around and I interview a lot of famous professionals who are academics, corporate owners, business owners, and what have you. I had the great opportunity some years ago when I served as the academic senate president for Los Menados College, where I was employed for 30 plus years, to meet a wonderful professional by the name of Dr. Richard Hanzy. And I am so honored to have him on our broadcast this evening. And I want to say welcome to you, Dr. Hanzy, and thank you out of your busy schedule for taking the time and come and speak to our digital media world.
No, I appreciate it. I know we missed on a couple of times we were supposed to meet.
That's right. But Dr. Hanzy, can you introduce yourself to our digital media academic world and tell us about where you received all your many degrees in college education? When I look at it, I'm like, man, I have to go. I said, you have so many degrees. It makes me say, my God, I need to go back to school. I done got too old right now, though.
Oh, no. I actually started my academic, I tell everybody, I went to like 4 high schools in 4 years, moving from a small town in Louisiana to Oakland, California. My academic journey with school really at high. Like I said, I went to like Castlemont High, Hayward High, Tennyson High. And I graduated from San Lorenzo High.
I went to Castlemont.
Yeah, I went to. I didn't last at Castlemont but 6 months. I was a country boy. I didn't know what was going. It was moving too fast for me. So,
wow.
I was like, yeah, I got to get up out of here. So, I was a basketball player, so school wasn't my thing at first. And when I wasn't able to play, got hurt, wasn't able to play ball no more. All my dreams of playing big time college basketball and those things and big time professional was gone. So I had to figure out what I wanted to do. For a person like me, sports was supposed to be my ticket out the hood. So I worked out 6 a.m. in the morning, worked out at school during lunchtime, worked out after school, worked out every weekend. So school was, then coming from Oakland, going to school in Hayward, primarily, I got to get up 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Catch them buses, right? So if I wanted to work out before school started, I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting to school by 6:30, working out for an hour, and then, kind of get through my school day. And also adjusting to tell people all the time, coming from Louisiana to California was an adjustment culturally. Everybody look at me like, what? It's all the United States now. There's a big difference between small town Louisiana and then moving to the Bay Area, California. It is huge. So, just the terminology, how fast everybody spoke out here. We don't speak that fast in the South. So everybody was, what I'm saying? I lost my lunch money like the third day out here catching the bus to the guy in the back of the bus with the 3-car Molly.
Okay.
Yeah, where the bean is at? Oh, I know the bean right there. Lunch money gone. So I learned not to do that no more. So, and then I went to, I couldn't play ball no more. I still tried. I got hurt. But I lost my scholarship, and then I was going to college at Alameda. So I started off at college at Alameda and Peralta colleges. I actually was like, man, I did a year and a half there, but my mind was still focused on basketball and trying to rehab my body, which didn't happen. So I ended up going into the Air Force, and it was I had a strategy behind it. I was working as a security guard and then going to school, and I wanted to be a lawyer and then a judge, and then I was gonna go into politics. That was my initial plan, So I'm like, man, I gotta clean up Oakland, so I'm gonna become the mayor of Oakland. I gotta fix the city problems. And so,
wow.
And so what happened was, So my little brother gets in trouble when he goes to juvenile hall, and he like, Rich, you know, these counselors ain't nothing but security guards up here. You can come do this. And so I'm like, okay. So I talked to the counselor, who happened to be a white male, and I said, man, well, tell me, I want to do this. You know, what I got to do this. And he just looks at me like, no, you don't qualify. And I got taken back by his response, like, you don't qualify. I'm like, man, I ain't never been arrested. I ain't no felon or nothing like that. He was like, nah, you need at that time to work at juvenile hall, you needed 45 college credits. And I'm like, man, I'm in college? But in the back of my mind, in a year and a half, I only completed one class, a history class. And I completed a history class, and me saying I completed it is a stretch, because the professor that happened to be his first year teaching at Alameda College, and he happened to be a black man, right? That was his first class. He said, Rich, you show up every day in class. He basically said, I'm gonna give you a C. But I can tell you in the back of my mind, man, I don't think I did C work. So he gave me the C, and I'm like, you know what? I ain't got no structure or discipline. I'm out here chasing girls and trying to play basketball. So I joined the Air Force. And then when I got into the Air Force, it kind of went through that whole process. And then when you're in the Air Force, in the military, they pay for your school while you're in there. So, and then they also, like, if you're gonna take time to go to school, you know, everybody gets involved, and your sergeant and everybody in there. So they stay on top of your school journey. And I was blessed. Man, when I tell you I was blessed, I had to work under one of the only black chiefs, Air Force Chief Billy Melvin, Chief Melvin. And he said, because all of the requests to go to school has to be ran through your squadron chief and first shirt. The first shirt was a dude who disciplined you in the Air Force. If you only know him if you get in trouble. And so him and the chief had to sign off, and the chief pulled me in, and he was like, look, I've been in the military 30 plus years. I'm just now getting my education before I get out. Go through this journey, right? Get this education. Don't wait till you at my age and about to retire. He's like, go, you know, you can become an officer, finish your education. And that really, for him to take his time out, really talk to me and kind of, you know, from coming from Louisiana, the one word we learn a lot in Oakland is game, right? Game can come in many different fashions, positive or negative, but I always learn that someone older, wiser, and more established takes the time to give you, the young buck, some game. You got to soak that up. You got to eat that up. And so I'm like, if he taking the time to give me this, I'm going to soak that up, and I'm going to take him up on it, and I'm going to run with it. Right. And so that's what I did. So I finished pretty much my AA working while in the military, but also taking classes in the military. At it was Gulf Coast Community College in Panama City, Florida. And I transferred those units from, it's now Gulf Coast College, but it was Gulf Coast Community College then. I transferred those units to College of Alameda because I wanted to get that. Remember, I want to now work at juvenile hall, right? I need those 45 credits. That was my mindset.
Okay.
I never went to school for an education. This was when I realized, like, I can see it now. I'm a visual person. I know if I get these 45 college credits, I'm now eligible to work at juvenile hall. And I know how much, you know, when you work for a county or government, the salaries are posted. So I know if I get these 45 credits, I'm eligible for that job. And so that's my whole military time. I was in there trying to get those credits. And I took care of all of my classes, got everything done, transferred it back, you know, just about done. I ended up, you know, trying to play basketball for the military team. And some construction stuff going on, something exploded. We ended up getting rocked, kind of fell, broke my leg. And then for the next year and a half, I'm doing rehab on my leg. I get a staph infection, man, and almost died.
Wow.
Yeah, they was like, you know, like I'm running fevers, I'm seeing things. I had to literally for like 6 months, I had a hole in my leg. And I had to go to this treatment center to get it treated 2 to 3 times a week. And a guy like, look, if you don't pass this next surgery, we're gonna cut your leg off.
Wow.
Right? I'm 22 years old. They like talking about cutting my leg off. And then those visuals you get in your head are like the old vets walking around, like in a wheelchair with one leg, just rolling themselves around, like all of these negative images we seen of vets. I'm like, that's gonna be me. So, I stuck to the doctor's routine, getting my leg treatment, treating the leg at the home, doing all of these things. And then if they finally got it to close, that last surgery, they got it to close and clear up. And I'm like, cool, I'm almost finished with school. I'm right at my AA degree. I'm about to I was trying to go into Air Force ROTC to become an officer to get my bachelor's degree. So I fill out the paperwork. I'm waiting for my acceptance letter. And then I get a letter and a call, and they say like, hey, Monday morning, you need to come to our processing center. So I went to the processing center. Now, even in my Air Force career at this time, I'm advancing. I'm like lead airman. I'm doing all of the training. I'm basically in charge of my office. I'm getting put up for awards every year. So I'm killing it in school, getting all pretty much A's and B's, killing it at my job. I'm an example for all of the young airmen. I got this leg injury that I'm trying to get past. And they like, so on a Monday, I get called into the processing office. They like, you got to do this training class. And they're like, what's the training class? It's for people that's trying to get out of the military on disability. Well, I'm like, that's not me. I'm gonna stay in. But they like, your name on the list, you got to do this. I'm a military man. They tell me I got to do it. I'm following the orders. Boom. I ain't really questioning it after that. That's Monday. Tuesday, they call me back down there. They say, hey, you got to go talk to this lady. So I go back down there. I talk to this lady. So this lady is like, I don't know if you ever seen Pee Wee Herman, but she looked like Large Marge of Pee Wee Herman. It's like Caucasian lady, big afro. And she just yelling at folks like, yo, you going to be malingering. You trying to get out the Air Force. You trying to get out your duties. And we think you're trying to cheat the Air Force. You going to the brig. So it's my turn. She yelling so loud, everybody in the lobby can hear her. So I go up in there and she starts on me and I said, hey, no disrespect, but I'm not trying to get out. I don't even know why I'm here. Y'all keep calling me. I'm trying to work. She was like, oh, okay. She's like, let me look at your record and I'll call you in a couple of weeks to see what's going on. I said, cool. This is Tuesday still. She called me end of the day Tuesday, say, hey, you need to come here Wednesday. Okay, come here Wednesday. So I'm thinking the next day she called me to say it was a mistake, right? Everything is all good. So she gives me this graph. She said, now you've been in the military right now 3 years. Yeah, I said, I signed up for 6, I got 3 more. She said, this is a chart. This is a chart where medical costs versus discharge, right? She said, your medical, because after my first surgery, it took 3.5 surgeries to fix my leg. She said, your chart, this is the chart. And after the first surgery, are all outside doctors and specialists. The Air Force didn't have the doctors and the specialists to treat the type of injury that I had. So all my care now was being handled by private hospitals, private clinics outside of the military.
Okay.
Your care costs are like this much. It's way above our standard. So we're gonna let you go. And she said, now she said, like, you're not in trouble or anything. This is a honorable medical retirement. So you're gonna get a pension for the rest of your life. And I'm like, huh? When I'm thinking pension, I'm like, that's for old people. I'm 22 years old, right? She's like, nah. She's like, this is not a good thing. She said, it's not a bad thing. This is a good thing, So she said, come back tomorrow, Thursday. Come back Thursday, man. She had me this big old check. It's like $22,000.
Wow.
She was like, we're going to ship all your stuff you enlisted out of Oakland. The closest Air Force base is in Fairfield. We're gonna ship all your stuff to storage. My whole house. I had a house. I was married at the time. My wife at the time had already moved back to California, but we were separated. I mean, for basically having to care, I can tell having to care for me and all my medical issues, she was kind of on a burnout. And so she had already moved back to the Bay Area. And so we were working on our stuff. with the kids and all of that, and they're like, you got to move back. You getting discharged. So that Thursday they gave me a check. That Friday they pack it up my house. Like they come there, they moving me quick, man. They moving me.
You didn't even know anything about any of this.
No. So here you go. So technically, my base doctor was supposed to initiate this on his own because of my injuries in the medical. They had some survey thing she was telling me about cause disability, you not being deployable anymore, yada yada yada. But my doctor on base never did it because I was trying to go to officer training school and I was trying to rehab. So he was giving me a shot. I got a new sergeant in my office. He was a Caucasian guy from Oklahoma. And he basically, at that time, you didn't have a lot of black males. Like I was running my office in my position and he wasn't right. He didn't really like it. He was like, and you couldn't really, because the chief was black and my reputation was so strong, he kept trying to move me out of position. But he didn't have no reason to do it because my office was the most extensive. What we did at the time, we simulated war every day. And I was the head chief simulator of one of the hardest blocks. We trained officers to be air battle managers. And I ran what's called a simulation. And we was the best of the best. And I was the best of the best. And so he kept trying to move other people that didn't look like me into the position. But when he found out what was going on, he didn't know how long my injury was. And when he found out, he did his research. So it was him that reported my injury to the disability board.
Wow.
And I found that out from the chief. Like the chief was like, he did it behind my back because it was something that had to go through the chief. And he somehow he bypassed that. And I guess it's because the chief was retiring. And so that's how it all got started. And once it got started and they did the medical record review, it was over at that point. It's like, yeah, your medical records clearly show that you've been disabled most of the time you've been in the military. So, and I was on a walking boot for a year. And I kept having to have surgery. So they was just like, plus you'll get better care, they got to pay for my medical care and my leg and my injuries for the rest of my life. So they was like, you'll just get better care outside of the hospital. And so that's what happened. But when I got back, guess what? I just finished my last semester, so I had those 45 credits, right? And then all of my family was already back out here. So it kind of worked out perfectly, right? One of those blessings in disguise, right? One of those God works in mysterious ways type moments.
That's right.
Right. So as soon as I got 3 years left on my list, and then right when I get my credits, I get this honorable medical, not I like to say discharge, but it's a retirement. They gave me a pension. So not only am I out, I'm out with a pension that I didn't have before. And that gave me plus money that gave me a little bit of time to just get myself resituated back out here. Obviously they did it so quick, I wasn't able to get a job right away. But I finished that AA at College of Alameda. I switched my major over to sociology because I no longer wanted to go in law. And so I was looking at becoming a probation officer at that time because I'm working in juvenile hall. I want to be a probation officer. And so I had like it's going to be either sociology or psychology with a minor in criminal justice. And one of these, I get my AA, start at College of Alameda. I'm working in group homes, right? Another guy say, if you want to work in the probation department, if you want to do this, work in group homes. Those kids in group homes is the same kids that you're going to see in juvenile hall, right? So I started working in group homes and finishing my bachelor's degree. And I was able to mentor and oversee a lot of young men. I even took a bunch of them. I started going to Cal State East Bay, got the AA from College of Alameda, went to Cal State East Bay. But at this time, the school structure, the discipline, the process, it was like second nature to me. So I'm just, getting an A in every class, burning through it. And I still, I want to be a probation officer. I want to kind of working in group homes. I'm doing everything they told me I need to do. And then my teacher, senior year, another God's blessing. Professor Nabi, guess what? This is her very first year teaching at Cal State East Bay. She said, right, Professor Nabi is I want to say she was Muslim, a Muslim woman, very confident, very cocky, very against the system. All of us young students gravitated towards her because she was on her stuff. A sociology professor. So Professor Nabi said, look, sometimes it's not what we know, sometimes it's who we know, right? So she said, I'm going to give you an opportunity to make some big connections. So she said, wherever you want to work at, go and interview the highest ranking person there so they can get to know your name and your face. I want to work in probation. So I look up the Alameda County probation list, and who was the highest ranking Black person I find? Sheila Foster. Sheila Foster was the assistant chief of probation, right? Second in command to the chief. So I said, I'm gonna interview Sheila Foster. So I found her email. Professor Nabi, man, was great. She walked us how to get through them. She said she's kind of high, so they might want you to go through all of this. So we got through all of this. Now let me be clear. My name, you guys can see my name right here. My name is Richard Hanzy. That is not a typical Black person name, right? Let's just be honest. I know this. It is not a Black person name. So when Sheila, Deputy Chief Sheila, seen my name, I think she assumed at first I was white, but she agreed to do the interview. And so they set the interview up. So again, she thought this was like a professional, like I'm maybe from a news place. And so she had like the county, like, like publicists, PR people, right? Like, and then she looked and I said, yes, I'm Richard. I'm here for the interview. And she's like, huh, shit, where you from? I said, I'm from Oakland. I'm trying to be a PO, Within 5 minutes, she look at the publicist person. She dismissed them. She's like, oh no, I got this. Y'all can go. Like, boom. So she's like, look, I'm going to take your questions for your class and I'm going to send this to my assistant. And my assistant is going to answer all of these questions for me. I want to sit down and talk to you though, off the record. Let's just talk, me and you. Man, that's like, she went right into auntie mode, right? Like, well, you got to get your degree. What's your GPA? You doing good? Ooh. So she breaking down the probation department, how it work, there's politics, And so I was like, cool. So then she said, you know what? She said, you really want to be a PO? I said, yeah. She said, what you doing? I'm working in group homes. She said, come with me. She walks me over to the personnel department. Right. So when you see there's the chief of probation and she's the assistant chief. So, when she moved, everybody kind of looking, right? Like, who is this with her? What's going on? So she walks me into the personnel department and said, hey, can you get him the application to be a probation intern? I'm like, okay, I ain't coming. Okay. So she said, when can you get this done? I said, I can get this back tomorrow. She said, fine, get it back tomorrow. First thing tomorrow morning, I'm down there at the building with the application filled out. Boom, turn it in. Again, right? I think I interviewed her on a Wednesday or Thursday. Got it back to her on I think a Wednesday. Got it back on Thursday. Monday, I get a call from the probation department.
Wow.
Monday, they're like, hey, we want you to come and interview for the probation intern position. Oh, I'm in there. I go and interview. It wasn't even no interview. I'm not even gonna lie. I had the position as soon as I walked in there. They was just trying to figure out, was I her son? Was I her nephew? Like, who was I? So from the personnel department back to the probation, people understood like, hey, he was Sheila, right? So everybody, so I ended up going and work in. I'm still in school. I'm finishing my bachelor's degree. I get hired on as a assistant probation intern. I'm working in community probation out of Eastmont Mall, right? So and again, man, God is. I mean, all I can say was God had His hands on me from Miss Foster just blessing me like that. Like she didn't have to do what she did for her to bless me there. I get to community probation. Oh, the brothers and sisters in there, the Latino brothers and sisters in there, they just embraced me and showed me so much love. My supervisor at that time, Dan Suhu, the only Chinese American probation officer in there at the time, was the supervisor. Anybody that worked in the probation department at that time with us, they was like, man, me and Mr. Suhu was like this. He showed me everything. He took me every place. He introduced me to some very powerful and important men of color. Mr. Tony Creer, who overseen he had a monthly meetings of providers. Mr. Tony Creer, I'm gonna get to him in a second, but I just want to acknowledge Walter Jackson, who was the presiding district attorney over juvenile court. Right, he was the DA that overseen all the juvenile cases in the county. And then obviously Judge Morris. Judge Morris was the presiding judge, another black man. All of these, Tony Creer, attorney Walter Jackson, Judge Morris, these guys all at some point took time to just talk to me, give me game, and just really just share information and treat me like, you know, I was more than an intern at the time. And so I finished up my bachelor's degree working with Tony. Tony Creer blessed my career, right? Tony had access to all of these providers. Tony sat me down. He said, you can be a probation officer, but these Boy Scouts of America is looking for a guy to help young folks. I helped develop their Scout Reach program. They ended up paying me $10,000 more than what being a probation officer would have been a year. Plus they gave me an expense account and a car allowance. Now take it. I didn't know what an expense account was at that time. Right? I had an expense account. I had a car allowance. I had all of these things. Right? And these were all men of color. Just constantly. I don't know what impression. I don't know what they seen in me to give me that or to support me in that way. But they really blessed me. And then when I got my bachelor's degree from Cal State East Bay, and then I went on to get my master's degree from John F. Kennedy University, because while I was working in the probation department, right? Like I said, I got up in there because I seen someone working at juvenile hall making a certain amount of money, which was a lot more than what I was making. And then I seen one of my mentors, my second mother, another angel from God that blessed me, man. And when I tell you she blessed me, she blessed me. I met Miss Monica Madden inside of the group homes. And I seen her, she was a therapist in the group homes, right? And listen, she was the epitome of class, grace, and a black woman with money, okay? You know, I used to crack up, you know, her diamonds was big, her car was nice, her house was nice. She even smelled like money. I'm a country boy from the city. You know, and she from Detroit, you know, the light-skinned, pretty older lady, really sophisticated and fancy. She even had a brooch. I'm like, I don't see many people wearing brooches every. What's going on with you? And so I seen her from the group home. We kind of met in the group home. And then when I kind of left the group home working in probation, we kind of lost contact. And then I seen her in the probation department. And I said, Monica, what you doing here? She said, I'm working. They gave me a contract to see the kids here at community probation, which was out of Eastmont Mall. That was my office, the probation department in Eastmont Mall. She said, I'm here to see the kids and provide counseling. I said, you know, we kept it real. I said, you know what? This is how much I'm making an hour. She smiled and laughed in her own way. And she said, you know, I'm making a lot more than that, baby. And then she told me what she was making. And then she walked off. I ain't gonna never forget this. She'd always had these conversations with me, but then she walked off. She was about to go in the room with the kid, and it, to me, this is one of those like Damascus moments, right? She turned around and came back to me, and she said, "Richard, I've told you this for years, and I mean it. But like I'm hearing her voice different now. Like for whatever reason, her voice is just coming through so loud and clear." She said, "If you come, I've seen you work with these kids. I've seen you have impact on people." She said, "If you come into this career, you was meant to do this. If you come into this career field, you're going to make a lot more money. You're going to have a lot more impact than what you're doing. I'm just telling you, baby, this is what you got to do. Okay? Now listen to," she always tell me, "Now listen to mama." I said, "Okay, I hear you." I was in, that was like a Monday or Tuesday. That following Monday, I was enrolled at John F. Kennedy University in their Master's in Psychological Counseling program. For whatever reason, her words stuck with me. I heard it. It was clear. I'm having a bunch of babies that I need to take care of. And you know, hey, if I can make money counseling people, and just so happened, the pastor, I'm in church, I'm serving in church, I'm a young deacon, I'm like a minister in training right there down the street at my God. I'm down there right down the street from Palmacia Baptist Church. I'm down there at, oh my God, why am I
At Glad Tidings?
Not at Glad Tidings. I'm on the hill in Hayward. It's
okay.
It was called there's a little small mom and pop's church. They name was the name of Old Hayward. Hayward used to be called something else. Okay. Oh man, why am I forgetting the name of the church that I was ordained at? It's slipping my mind. But I was there, and the pastor just happened to preach, and he was talking about the names of Christ and what we call Christ, and he was like, and he kept saying, "And a mighty counselor," and he kept saying it over, "A mighty counselor. We need in these times we need a mighty counselor," and it was sticking to me like, okay, I'm keep hearing this thing about being a counselor and a therapist, so I'm like, okay, I enrolled in school, and I got my master's degree from John F. Kennedy. And then obviously being in ministry, I always pride myself on being a professional. So once I finish my master's degree, if anything I do, I want to be educated and have a knowledgeable base. And I love my pastor. But I also then went to school to become a minister. So I got my master's in theological studies from Liberty University, Liberty Seminary. So I got my master's in theological studies with a focus on biblical interpretation. I got my master's from John F. Kennedy right there in Pleasant Hill, psychological counseling with a focus on becoming a marriage and family therapist. I then got, I was interested in starting and running my own programs. So I went back to school. I was hesitant on going back to school. I'm going to get, so I went to Capella University, and I got my degree from my PhD, my first PhD from Capella University in Human Services with a focus on running and managing nonprofit organizations and working with, and also healthcare organizations. Because I wanted to start my own programs. I realized that a lot of the programs that I worked at throughout Alameda and Contra Costa County, they were often serving people of color, but they weren't run by people of color. And then the people of color that was there, when it came down to decision making, they'll give us jobs in like human resources. They'll give us now, like a lot of us are getting jobs like equity services manager, or they're giving us management positions, but those management positions, they weren't in line with the people who had decision making over the program. I've seen a lot of brothers that are, the Fred Finches, the Lincolns, the Senecas. There's a lot of people empowered, but they weren't empowered in the decision making structure, right? And I wanted to be like, let me start something and run us where we make decisions for people that we can serve. And then a lot of these folks wasn't even from the Bay Area. You know what I mean? So you're not a person of color, but you're from like Ohio. You from these small places, like with all the knowledgeable people. And then another thing you'll find that you'll have people like me with master's degrees, PhDs, but the person that's over us just have like a master's degree or even a bachelor's degree, right? So even though we're more than educated and competent, we still want being put up in those positions of power. So I want to change all of that. And so I got my PhD, but I was working for the county at the time in Contra Costa County and taking care of my family. I had to focus on, I had a choice. I had ministry and I had these things I wanted to do, but I also had a young family. So I kind of took a step back and focused on raising my family. We were so many of us, they were so young. I wanted to be present in their life. You know, I want either I'm gonna change the world or I'm gonna raise my kids. And so I had to really just focus on raising my kids. And I even to a point to where when I moved, I kind of had to take a step back from ministry as well, because I moved so far away from my home church. And just really, and then my kids started having games and ballets. You know, I'm a father of 7. So it was a lot for me to handle. So for me to actually get some sleep and be able to have to really focus on what my priorities was. And then I decided to like, okay, I started working at Kaiser. I wanted to up my education. So I went back to California Southern University in Southern California, got my PsyD. I wanted to become a psychologist and provide services. You know, obviously I had to see that, you know, you get paid more money. Kaiser was the only organization that paid the difference. If you can be a master's in social work, you can have a PsyD, you can have an MFT in the mental health or LPCC. And at most organizations, you get paid the same amount of money, even though some of these degrees are at different levels. But at Kaiser, they had a huge pay increase for the PsyD. So I went back to school again to help support myself and my family. And also a part of that was if I'm making more, I can work less and kind of be more present and actually start to do some of the things that I want to do on the side. And so I know it was a long way to go through my educational journey.
No, you know what? You told me a lot, and you answered many of your questions as you answered many of the questions, such as your role and your work in counseling. You didn't say specifically, but you hinted to the fact that you have your own business, My Faith Community and Counseling Services, that you kind of started. You hinted to the fact that you're a licensed minister. You've had, the one thing that it reminded me was that you've had a wonderful career and journey of people of color helping you.
Yes.
That is so rare.
It is rare.
You hear about the helping hand, but you're the first person that I interviewed where I've actually heard someone say it was all these people of color, just not one person. But one person helped you, another person helped you, and they took you under their wing. You talked about the whole mission of the older person coming in and giving advice and really taking you under their wings and helping you. That's beautiful. I mean, I think this is going to show the value of mentorship just from love and care.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have mentorship and be anyone licensed. You just love and care a person and want the best for them. And that is part of humanity, but it's a major component of ministry. Can you describe some of your work as I know you wrote a textbook and you're a published author entitled Raw, I believe your textbook is.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that for a second?
So over my years of being a therapist and being in the mental health career field, and before I really get in there, I just also want to shout out another powerful Black woman. We worked together a little bit when she started the youth center right next to Castlemont High. Her name is Alice Simmons. Alice was someone who was also a mentor to me. For her to start Youth Uprising and the ways and the things that she was doing at the time, and it just to see a person of color move like that and to make something that big happen, and just to be inspired by what I seen her do. And her, listen, every single one of these people that I seen, every single one of these people that I, working at the probation department, I got a chance to meet. Again, thank Mr. Tony Creer. Oh my God, he introduced me to so many different people. They gave that to everybody, right? They were people that loved on and touched on. If you came their way, they blessed you with what they knew. They gave you encouragement, and that is, and I have to say, those chiefs, those village chiefs, men and women that touched my life, they kind of set the framework for how I move forward. If anybody ever came to you and said, Dr. Hanzy said, or Richard said a bad word, everybody in my village will look at you and know that you ain't talk to me. I have so many young brothers and sisters that on my own time, I encourage, you ask anybody of color that come through my way, I'm in their ear. I'm telling them how they can do better. I'm telling them what career advances they got. I want to be that voice of clarity to give them direction. A lot of people are much better off in life because they took what I told them and they ran with it. And so to me, I want to continue that. And also I want to be long past me being here. And the only way to kind of get that lasting effect, when we talk about people like Martin Luther King, is we remember his speeches, and that's there forever, and I wanted to just leave something behind to have people to hold on to, and to kind of like, oh man, that touched me or that moved me. And so the first book I wrote was Raw. This is Raw, right? Relationships at Work. It's available in Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And Raw, it's not just a couples book, even though it got a lot of couple stuff in it, but it's all relationships, right? The relationships with our neighbors, the relationships with our coworkers, all the relationships that we can enhance, like somebody like yourself, for you to take the time, you're a senior professor at a university, to make it a point to get to know other young men of color on your own time. I don't think it's too many young men of color that work there or past you in general that you wasn't, smiling, talking to them, man, who are you? What you doing, right? We don't see a lot of men and the men of color taking the time out to really get to know and making an effort to actually mentor or say a good word to get to know. So that's what Raw is about. It's really like doing the self-work to understand, help you deal with a lot of stuff. And us as men of color and people that grew up in adverse communities, we have a lot of trauma that we kind of live through, but we never work through, that impact our relationships. All right, so I can be a better husband, a better father, a better person. I have to start doing that self-work and understanding who I want. And in all my books that I write, there's a central theme of structure, right? And that structure is important, right? That's why you see a lot of athletes who are married and have families, they do better than athletes who are not married and don't have families, because they got that structured life, right? And so when I'm looking, even for me, before I went into the military, I was disorganized. I didn't have purpose. I wanted to do a lot of things, but I didn't have structure. The military gave me discipline and structure. And this is not something new, because if anybody's been a Christian for 5 minutes and you try to read the Bible, right? I'm gonna read the whole Bible a whole year. The first thing we all read is Genesis, right? And what people miss in Genesis is like God made the world out of chaos, right? So without structure and forming, people read Genesis and really overlook. To me, the message is all our lives is chaotic until we come to God. Coming to God gives us structure. And Genesis is very ordered. He's giving us structures. He's gonna give me structure in my personal life. He's gonna give me a structure as a father, as a man, as a person in the community. We all being formed out of chaos. And so with these books, I started just like, okay, if you got a chaotic work life, I'm gonna give you structure. You got a chaotic personal life, interpersonal life with self-care, taking care of your health. us as men of color, you got high blood pressure, heart disease. We need structure around our health, right? And we need to do these things in a certain way. So raw is about, and it's relationships or work. It's the work you do for yourself and the people that you love and the people that make up your environment and community, so you can begin to take care of all those things you love, so you don't lose it. And then, so for me, for every book, Raw is a good book, but we would consider it's written for the world. So for every book I write for the world, I write a book for the faith community as well. And so after Raw came Raw Faith, and that's my other book. And Raw Faith is a faith-based version of, faith and healing, growing and healing through faith, right? So it's a book about how to use our faith to grow and heal through our worldly struggles. And it uses a lot of scripture and a lot of things to help us learn and grow using our faith, but we also looking at medical psychology, and I'm intertwining all of it through scripture to help people, if you want that faith-based perspective of healing and then growing as well. So to date, I have 8 books published on Amazon.
Wow.
And
Okay.
Barnes and Nobles, and I will have 2 more that is getting published this month. So at the end of the year, I'm gonna have 10 books published.
Wow. You truly transformed your life, and people truly love you, as I've grown to really love and respect you. And I could tell that you're very committed to helping people in general, but through a faith context. And if it's not a faith context, it's a humanity context, where you're able to advise people, keep relationships together, help people to deal with some of their mental struggles. Could you tell us, what are some of the challenges that you faced? I'm looking at the clock because I usually try to keep an hour, no more than an hour. And what are some of the challenges, and you have 1 or 2 more questions, some of the challenges that you faced as a man of color in your profession?
I'm from the South. So, and when people think of the South, you think of like overt racism, right? People look at your skin and don't like you, which I didn't experience a lot of growing up in the South. But here in the Bay Area, I'm going to speak to the area that I'm in. It was a lot of covert racism, a lot of being highly educated and being in a certain room, people would be intimidated. If I had a voice or I spoke to an issue, I can come in and work and be quiet and do what I got to do. But if I spoke up too loud, I found that I easily get myself painted into a corner. And so it was always that fine balance of knowing that I'm one of the most educated and thoughtful people in the room. It's not about a power struggle, but because of my education, and people's like, well, this person's gonna come from my job, or are they this? Is just people always. And then you gotta be mindful too. I'm 6'4", right? So I have a presence as well. So it's like I was always having to make myself, I feel like, smaller and dumber sometimes.
Wow.
Right? Because if I didn't, right, I couldn't make my presence. I've never been, even in school, I've never been able to be my full me, because I always felt like my full me, my passion, my love, if it come out, my faith, somebody gonna be hurt by it or offended by it. And so, and that's working for other people. When I work for myself in my business, you getting all of me, the full me. And that's how my business is. And my business, my practice has been a lifesaver, because I was drowning in working for other people and in the world. Because every time I try to do me and be me, it always turned into something. But in my own practice and being able to fully be me, it's like I can breathe. There's a weight off my chest.
Well, Dr. Hanzy, you've answered a lot of questions that I had written, but you've answered them in just your story. Can you kind of tell us about what are some of your future goals and future projects and innovations that you have planned for yourself? Because you are a very well-respected professional, and what a caring person you are.
Yeah, my biggest goal right now is, since COVID, I just started my men's group. I really want to get that back going. And so I'm in transition. I took a position that kind of took me out the area that I'm used to working in. So I'm in a new area. So once I get space and get those things settled in, I got 10 books published. I got 4 more books that I'm writing the outline for. I'm going to get those published next year. So hopefully by mid next year, into next year, I'm going to have 14 books published. And those books are going to guide my work. My ultimate goal is to be in a place to men of color, all men of color of all races, to create a group where they can come to and be encouraged and deal with their own mental trauma, their own struggles to make it in these, dealing with overt or covert racism, right? To where they can overcome these things, be better fathers, better men. And I also, right now, I'm working with a group of brothers right now. We're just in a preliminary stage of creating a curriculum, a mentoring curriculum for young men of color, created by educated men of color who come from adverse backgrounds, from the same backgrounds as them. We want to create an evidence-based practice to help guide because what's out there now is never created by us, and it's not really effective. It's not really effective with us, but because they hire people that look like us to do it, it seems to be effective. It is not effective because of the curriculum. It's effective because they're giving me and you their curriculum, and we are massaging it to make it work. And it's the relationships the people have with us, that makes it look like it's working.
Wow.
So we're going to create something that's created by us, for us, and we want to make that an evidence-based practice and do the work so we can begin to implement this truly something that's been created by men of color from adverse backgrounds to support young men in school that's being left behind through social promotion and social emotional education. And, this learned helplessness that they putting out there on us, to truly rely on the system, to empower young Black men and young men. And in one of my books too, I don't have it here, it's sold out actually. Raw Launch, which is a guide to helping young adults launch into adulthood. Because a lot of us parents got these 30 and below kids still living at home, because a lot of what the world is, it kind of pushes kids back in the home, especially kids of color, because they realize that people are talking about equity and diversity, but when they get out into the real world, they don't really experience it. All right. And so my goal is to do the Raw Launch program for young adults, to get them into the world and incorporate it into the world faster. The men's mentoring group for men to just come and be open and honest about their struggles, to help them be better fathers. And then I want to create this evidence-based practice that we can go nationwide with, supporting young men of color as fifth grade. In this program and curriculum is going to guide them from fifth grade to the launch age, which is 13, where we start to prepare our young men and women to launch into career fields. And a lot of it is not just for the kids, but it's parents. Teaching parents to say, don't tell your kid to go to college. You tell your kid to go to college, they're going to come back with a bachelor's in African-American studies, where they can't get a job, and they got $70,000 worth of student loans or $80,000 worth of student loan debts, where we saying, hey, look, these are the degrees that, don't ever target a degree, target a career. You're going to school to be a doctor, a lawyer, a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, right? Have these more professional, attainable goals, because if we leave it to our kids and if we don't watch our terminology, they're going to try to get the easiest degree possible. And those degrees don't necessarily turn into a job when you finish. You know,
Return on the investment, not enough.
not enough.
Dr. Hanzy, you have been, you've really shared your thoughts and your ideas in terms of what you're doing with your future journey. You've discussed some of your goals, your future projects, and innovation, and your wonderful community work. You made some startling comments, especially around prepare your family members, your children for careers, not just a college degree. Um, you are a very well respected psychologist, but you're just a well respected human. I am so glad that we had an opportunity to meet. I think I met you maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little longer.
It was a little long.
Yeah, because I was the academic senate president at Los Madonnas College from 19. I think it was 2013 to I think 2018. That's right, because then I ended up going and working at the state. But I was so glad that I ran and I came in touch with you through just being the Senate president, and I'm so glad that you were kind enough to allow me to just ask you some of your journeys, some of your goals, especially in the beginning. A lot of how you got going was very enthralling to me to see how many African Americans and people of color helped you. So one of the things I try to do is to be mindful of professional times. And I want to thank you on behalf of my digital platform, Professor for Life Incorporated, for coming and letting me interview you. And I hope that we stay connected. And I look forward to all of the literature that you produce to help not only our people, but mankind and humankind. And thank you once again. And do have a wonderful afternoon and evening.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, then. God bless you.
All right.
Bye-bye now.